Hey guys, it's Andrew here and welcome to part 4 of my 5-part rundown of the drivers in Formula 1 this year and how I think they've done in the first half of the season before we kick off with the second half of the season at Spa later this week. We're in the top 8, we're into the guys who've not only impressed me but impressed many other people up and down the grid and in the F1 community. So let's get right into it with number 8, and someone that I've rated for a long time, and I'm so delighted this high up, and it's fully stats driven as well. It's Jules Bianchi. I'm just going to say it clearly. Jules Bianchi scored points in a Marussia. I still, when I hear that sentence, I can't quite believe it. And then you consider that it wasn't just 1 point, it was 2 points. I mean, the performances he's put in this year, I think fully warrant this speculation that he could step into a Ferrari, whether it be next year or the year after, when we think Kimi is in the best world, even with the best performance he could give, will hang up his helmet. I think the way Bianchi goes about things very much reminds me how Olivier Panis used to go about things, and I think it's something that the French do very well. He's very understated when you hear him in the media. He's never one of these drivers kind of strutting around the paddock going, "Oh, look at me, look how good I am," even though I'm in not the best car, or trying to big up his own ego. And I just repeatedly have been so impressed with how Bianchi has driven this year. Just looking through some of his other results, so if you've not seen my previous videos, I've tried to kind of gauge a driver's typical result by taking off their 2 best results of the year and their 2 worst results of the year. What that leaves for Bianchi are 14th, few 15ths, nothing lower than 18th. So in my maths, he's typically finishing 15th or 16th. Best performing driver in the small teams battle between the Caterhams and Marussias, and I think the time is right that someone needs to take Bianchi further up the grid, because I think the way he's driven the last 2 years fully warrants it. So on to number 7, someone who in some ways I was surprised is this far up, and it's Jenson Button. I think it's almost, Jenson's been around so long, it's almost like it's just like, expected that Jenson will be there or thereabouts, but Jenson is still driving so well. I don't think he's driving the best he's ever done. He's not driving like he did 2010, 2011, but he's still driving beyond the means of that car, similar to how he used to get the BARs and the Hondas a little bit further up the grid than he perhaps should. He's not being beaten by his teammates in races. He's not got the qualifying pace, but he's never had the qualifying pace. At the end of the day, you still don't get points for qualifying, so there's no point beating someone about it as long as they get the cars to the end of the race. Looking at comparisons to last year, he's, as I said before with Magnussen, he's performing better against his teammates than this time last year. In terms of championship points, he's slightly better at the rate he's scoring. So I think Jenson's had once again, quite a few drivers this year, a par round or par for front 9. I expect to see more of the same in the coming races. At number 6 is a guy who once again has continued to show this year that really he warrants a top drive. He's in a midfield car again, and it's Nico Hülkenberg. He's had the edge over Perez for most of this year. When I did all this maths and all this little study spreadsheet that I've worked together, I'm kind of assuming that the Force India in terms of performance is similar, if not slightly bit better than the Sauber last year. His typical finish is something between 6th and 7th, so he's reliably in the points, reliably getting the Force India to the end of races, which when you're in a midfield constructors battle, that is what you need. You need a driver who's quick and also reliable at getting that car and consistently scoring points. Maybe not getting podiums every single week. I think this is where he's doing better than Perez. I mentioned in the video before that Perez has been really, really inconsistent. So he'll get a podium at Bahrain and then fall off the road. Hülkenberg's not done that at all this year. And he's just furthered his stature as one of the next big things in the sport. Similar to Verne, who I talked about in the previous video, unfortunately, just the way F1 is at the moment, with the top teams not necessarily chopping and changing drivers that often, it is difficult to see who's going to take him, who's going to be that team to take him up. It's not going to be Mercedes, it's not going to be Red Bull. Williams are probably a little bit too inconsistent still at the moment. We don't know what they're going to do 12 months down the line. The only real possibility is Ferrari. But of course, Bianchi might have a shot in that, being part of their driver development program. So we'll just have to wait and see. It will come. He will get his chance, but it might be like Button back in the day. It took him a long time to get a shot at a car which could regularly win races. On to number 5, and the last driver that we're going to talk about in part 4. Once again, I used to really not like Fernando Alonso, but the way he's matured, I can't help but not be impressed at what he does. Getting that Ferrari into positions it really should not be in, and he is just driving so magnificently again this season. When we look at his stats, admittedly in terms of championship points he's down on last year, but 4th, 6th, 5th, 6th and 5th with those middling typical finish results, so he's consistently in the top 5. You can tell he's getting every single little bit of performance out of that Ferrari that he can. Will he win a race by the end of the year? I think it's 50-50. He's going to need a bit of luck. It would be I'd quite like to see him win at Monza. I think that would be really magical to see him win there. So we'll just have to wait and see. But once again, he's impressed me so much this year, and I hope it continues. I've also really loved his races against the Red Bulls this year. That's been one of my highlights of the year. So that's the end of part 4. 4 drivers to go. That will be along shortly, so why not click the subscribe button to get that video as soon as it comes out. I've been Andrew the Blade, and I'll see you soon.